Hello friends, welcome back to Technique. Today we'll be doing the detailed review of the latest device from Motorola in India, the Moto Edge 50 Fusion. So Moto Edge 50 Fusion comes with a dual camera setup and it also has a pretty good selfie camera. So let's go straight into the camera samples and see how good the experience is on this device. So before getting into the video, if this is your first time on this channel, do hit that subscribe button and also hit the bell icon to get notified of all the videos we publish. So before we go into the camera samples, let's have a look at the hardware offered. So the Moto Edge 50 Fusion 5G comes with a 50 megapixel Sony Lightyear 700C sensor with f1.8 aperture. It also has optical image stabilization. Now the secondary camera is an ultra wide angle camera, which is a 13 megapixel shooter with 120-degree field of view. It also acts as the macro camera with f2.2 aperture. Now the selfie camera is a 32 megapixel shooter with f2.4 aperture. So that's the camera hardware. Now both the rear and the front cameras can record videos in 4K resolution. So let's go straight into the camera samples taken with this device. So looking at the daylight captures, you can see that the Edge 50 Fusion does produce some really good results. The details are good, the sharpness levels are adequate, and also the dynamic range looks good. The color rendering is quite good, but there is a slight richness in terms of color reproduction, but it's not a saturation issues. But overall I would say the dynamic range looks good, and the overall quality of the images definitely looks better, at least in this price segment. So the 50 megapixel Sony Lightyear 700 sensor does a pretty good job in terms of details. The sharpness levels are impressive, the colors are also done well. Even we have shot most of the images with cloudy condition. Even then the dynamic range looks very good. Now the 13 megapixel ultra wide angle camera looks quite okay. The colors are quite acceptable, but it doesn't have the kind of dynamic range as the primary camera, but it's still acceptable 13 megapixel shooter in this price segment. Let's move on to the close-up shots. Now the phone can capture some really good images in terms of close-up images. The sharpness levels are good, but colors are slightly on the richer tone. You can see that richness levels are slightly higher, especially when it comes to reds. But overall I would say the close-up images did a pretty good job with details and pretty much sharpness levels as well. Now the 13 megapixel ultra wide angle camera also doubles up as a macro sensor. Now the 13 megapixel shooter does a pretty good job with macros. It's definitely better than the 2 megapixel macros we have seen in a lot of devices. So they come pretty good, and they're quite acceptable at this price segment. So macro camera does a quite good job. Next, let's move on to the portraits. Now the phone can take pictures in 24mm, 35mm and 50mm. Now the portraits quality looks good. The colors are pretty much done well, and the skin tones are also quite acceptable, I would say. The edge detection is quite good. You can adjust the bokeh level, but overall I would say the quality looks good, and colors are slightly on the richer side, and skin tones are slightly warmer, but nevertheless it does a pretty good job in this price segment. So we're happy with the portrait performance of this device. Now moving on to the low light experience. In indoor artificial light, you can see that it does have a pretty good results overall. The quality and the sharpness levels are acceptable, but when light drops further, in extreme low light you can see it's not the perfect rendering of the sky. Especially you can see here too much of over brightening impact, especially when there is sky in the image. You can see here it's not the complete actual rendering of the sky, and the low light images are okayish, I would say. The sharpness levels is quite good, and there is OIS that helps in the overall quality, but it could have been slightly better overall, especially with the Sony sensor. Now moving on to the selfies. Now the 32 megapixel selfie camera images are quite good actually. The skin tones are good. Once again the dynamic range looks good, and overall the quality and color reproduction looks pretty good with the selfie camera. Now you can also take portrait selfies with this, and the edge detection is once again good, and this is one camera which people wouldn't get disappointed with the overall selfie quality. So this is definitely a good selfie camera in this price segment. Now moving on to the video recording, it can record videos in 4K 30 FPS. Now the 4K footage looks good, although there is a slight focus hunting issue, but not a major concern. But you can see that the colors are not really accurate. It's a lot richer. Now this is the 4K, or rather the 1080p 60 FPS footage, and once again you can see that the colors are slightly richer in tones, but the stabilization works pretty well on this device. Now the ultra wide angle camera can also shoot 4K videos. Once again it's quite good, and the stabilization is done pretty good on this device. So video recording is quite satisfactory on this device. So this is the front facing. So that is a detailed camera review of the Moto Edge 50 Fusion 5G. So as a
H50 Fusion, so you can judge yourself.
So that is a detailed camera review of the Moto H50 Fusion 5G. So as a whole, the Moto H50 Fusion 5G does a quite good job with respect to the camera performance. The daylight shots have come good, the portraits are good. Although the colors are slightly on the richer tones, but nevertheless at this price segment, we feel Moto has done a quite good job. The low light performance could be slightly better, especially with OIS. It could have been a slightly better, especially in terms of how the colors are rendered. Other than that, the cameras are quite satisfactory, I would say, and there won't be much of issues for most users in terms of camera performance. And at this price segment, it will not disappoint users with a camera experience. So that is a detailed camera review of the Moto H50 Fusion 5G. Hope you enjoyed watching this video. Do hit that like button and also hit the subscribe button for more videos. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in our next video. Have a great day.